sport, and in football, Premiership giants Everton are in deep trouble this morning. They've slipped into the relegation zone after losing 2-1 to Sheffield Wednesday. And in their rehearsal for next week's FA Cup semi-final, Newcastle United drew 1-1 with Spurs. Chris Hollins has the details.
Everton dropped into the bottom three for the first time since August, despite taking the lead through Francis Jeffers. But on a day full of defensive errors, the home side committed football suicide. First, David Unsworth mishit his back pass to give Wednesday's Benito Carboni the chance to level the scoring. And then Marco Materazzi slipped up, allowing the Italian a free run for his second and condemned the Toffees to a nerve-wracking finish to the season. Elsewhere, Charlton leapt out of the relegation zone by beating West Ham. New boy Graham Stewart with the only goal of the game. Coventry City are all but safe with a 1-0 win at home to Southampton. George Boateng, the scorer. But Nottingham Forest are still bottom despite drawing 2-2 with Liverpool. Pierre van Hooijdonk with a spectacular last-minute equaliser. Tamori Ketspire added another cracking goal to his collection as Newcastle drew 1-1 with Spurs. And Hamilton Ricard got 2 of Middlesbrough's 3 as they beat Wimbledon 3-1. Chris Hollins, GMTV Sport.
And finally from me this morning, it's been reported that Posh Spice and David Beckham are to marry in Ireland. The wedding will be held in a church near Dublin on July the 4th. The couple have asked guests to wear black and white, but their own outfits are still being kept top secret. 6:37 is the time. I said that's it from me. Here's John.
And thanks very much indeed. Well, today a massive appeal is launched to help the tens of thousands of refugees driven from their homes in Kosovo. The UK's leading charities are making a rare joint appeal to raise millions of pounds to fund a huge relief operation. Here's a reminder of how the crisis has escalated.
Up to 500,000 refugees are believed to be fleeing Kosovo with nothing more than the clothes they stand up in.
When it comes to conflict in our media-savvy world, images are surely part of the arsenal.
If the airstrikes on Yugoslavia were to end this moment, the job of resettling refugees would still be enormous. Realistically, how do you feed, clothe and house tens of thousands of people for an indefinite time?
After all they've been through, these people now have little hope, no faith and no future. And they want to know why.
Well, just a handful of the haunting images of the refugee crisis in Kosovo. In a moment, we'll be crossing live to Sally Eden, who's at Oxfam's headquarters in Oxfordshire, where supplies are being prepared for the refugees. But first, we can join our correspondent Alan Fisher in Macedonia, who's been witnessing this tragedy for the past 2 weeks. Alan, good morning, and there seems to be no let-up.
That's right, they say things are getting better, and certainly the first of thousands of refugees have moved into the specially built camps around Macedonia, the biggest one being built by the British. But that's no consolation to the up to 60,000 that are trapped in the camp at Blatci at the border. The conditions there are absolutely appalling. It's been described to me by one aid worker as a hell on earth. We're talking about people using ditches as open toilets, of rubbish being discarded, of mud that's up to their knees, of people dying every morning and every night, of the bodies being brought out, of the young and the old that are suffering. So really there seems to be no let-up for these people, and we have the aid agencies, the UNHCR, the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, saying that they could clear that area within 2 days. But the problem is the Macedonians are insisting that every refugee is registered. It's clear the Macedonians don't want these refugees here. They don't want the Kosovar Albanians in their country. And they seem to be making it as difficult as possible to get them out of that horrible, disgusting area at the border and into somewhere where it's slightly cleaner, where they can get food. And certainly they've got at least some sort of cover.
You've been speaking to the aid agencies. They've been saying that it's going to get worse before it gets better?
Very much so. We're watching people on the border. There are army reservists who have been called up, who are patrolling the area around this border camp along with the police. and they are being very strict, very tough, sometimes very cruel, pushing people back. There's no set system of getting people out of the pen after they've registered and onto the buses. It's just if you can catch someone's eye and he seems to take a shine to you. But it's also a problem too for the aid agencies who can't get into the camp. We watched yesterday as a leading member of the World Food Programme here in Macedonia was waved away by a border guard. When she showed her accreditation, her pass, she simply was told it's not valid. And she says that unless there is a major change in attitude and a fairly outspoken outburst, there will be people that will die and the figure will increase dramatically.
10 people a day die here in this camp, have been dying in the last few days. I mean, if the healthcare and the health situation is not improved here, this rate will unfortunately increase. It is a matter of urgency now. I mean, it's not something that we can't play with time now. It is urgent. I mean, 10 people a day is already obscene.
It is obscene. Alan, thank you very much for talking to us this morning. We'll talk to you a bit later on. Britain's aid agencies are already flying much-needed supplies to the Balkans to help the thousands of refugees. Today, they're stepping up their relief effort with the launch of a joint nationwide appeal for funds. Well, Oxfam is one of the dozen agencies taking part in the appeal, and Sally Eden is at its warehouse in Oxfordshire. Sally, good morning.
Good morning, Penny. Yes, as you say, there are 12 agencies that have all got together. It shows the scale of this disaster by the fact that they've all got together to launch this appeal. And they've launched this appeal because they want your money. They want your cold, hard cash. They know how to deal with these sort of situations, the situations that Alan Fisher was describing. And it's no good sending blankets. It's no good sending food. They want your cash so they can bring about aid to these people. £5 will buy, £2.85 will buy this bucket, which will carry water for a family. You can also, the £5 will go towards syringes. It will also go towards soap, anything to bring dignity to these people that have travelled from their home country with nothing more than the clothes they stand up in. It will also buy medical supplies as well. And across here, it will buy a bale of blankets. A blanket costs around £4.80. This is 20 blankets all packed up, ready to go. The reason they want to get this money there is so they can get the supplies out. One plane load of supplies will help around 70,000 people. So as soon as they can get the bits and pieces together and get them shipped out to these areas, it will try to bring some relief to the suffering that we're seeing. We're also talking about vital equipment that helps purify water. Water, of course, vital to stop the flow of disease that Alan was describing coming across those camps. So they're launching this appeal because they want your money so they can help these refugees.
Sally, thanks very much indeed.
Well, one of the other leading agencies taking part in today's nationwide appeal is Christian Aid, and Dominic Brain is one of the emergency coordinators for Christian Aid. Late last night, he returned from Albania, and he joins us, as you can see, this morning. Thank you very much, Steve, for being with us, Dominic. First of all, a summary of what you saw and heard in Albania.
Well, I was up on the Albanian border with Kosovo on Easter Sunday at about 6:30 in the morning, and what I saw was just a human tragedy. Still at that time, hundreds of people coming through each hour. Mothers, as they cross over the border into Albania, just bursting into tears. You can see that they are just exhausted and they've been through something so traumatic we can't even imagine it. The children, their faces are thin. We spoke to people, some people haven't eaten for up to 5 days, had no water. It was really a terrible thing to witness.
I think the official estimate is that some 34,000 people went into Albania yesterday alone. One thing that puzzles many of us sitting here in the comfort of our studio and our homes is, why is it, we know there are difficulties, but why is it that the aid seems to have taken so long to get through?
Well, first of all, you have to consider that Albania is the poorest country in Europe. The border crossing where the refugees are coming through is in the poorest region of the poorest country in Europe. The roads are terrible. It can take anything from 7 to 9 hours to drive a truck up to that area. Also, we've had problems flying stuff in. We had 3 planes landing at Tirana Airport, but there's even some competition for airspace getting things in. All these factors make it very, very difficult to respond quickly. But I'm pleased to say that aid is getting up there. Christian Aid has been delivering high-energy biscuits, blankets, all the way up to the border and in areas where the refugees are being moved to further down in Albania.
We heard what Alan Fisher earlier talking about the Macedonian government's response, which seems to be somewhat lacking. Maybe a good reason for it, maybe not, I don't know. We also saw a campsite in Macedonia yesterday empty with thousands of refugees standing up the road. What's the response been of the Albanian government?
It's been something completely opposite. It's been very warm. We were watching as the refugees came through the border, the border guards were shaking their hands, smiling at them, welcoming them. We saw a Catholic priest on Easter Sunday smiling, waving a cherry blossom at the refugees, welcoming them into the country. The Albanian Orthodox Church, which Christian Aid works with, is arranging for thousands and thousands of families to take in the refugees into their own houses. Again, these are very, very poor people, but their response is incredibly generous.
Very briefly, what would be your message this morning to anyone sitting at home thinking, this is not my problem, it's someone else's?
Well, this is a big problem. We can help. We're organising a joint appeal. All of the UK charities are working together. We're launching this today. Please respond generously.
Dominic, thanks very much indeed for being with us.
Yes, and if you want to donate money to the Kosovo Appeal, you can do it in a variety of ways. You can make credit card pledges to the Kosovo Crisis Appeal on 0870 60 60 9000. That's 0870 60 60 9000. All calls will be charged at the national call rate, and cheques should be made payable to the Kosovo Crisis Appeal and sent to PO Box 999, London EC4A 9AA. Alternatively, cheques and cash donations can also be paid into any bank or post office, and that's completely free of charge.
It's 13 minutes to 7 this Easter Tuesday. In a moment, the news, weather and travel where you are.
Still to come on the News Hour on GMTV, Sir Elton swaps the keyboard for the clapperboard as the King of Pop becomes a movie mogul. That's in a few minutes' time.
Good morning. One person was arrested and a man was treated in hospital after disturbances in Portadown last night, following a Loyalist band parade. Trouble involving around 150 people broke out in the McGowan Buildings car park at the bottom of Oban Street. Frosty relationships between the apprentice boys and the Lower Ormo concerned community will not prevent a breakthrough being announced later today. Emma Flynn reports.
Later today, the LOCC are expected to hand over a letter agreeing to start setting up a process which will lead to face-to-face talks with the apprentice boys to discuss the controversial marching issue. The move comes after an invitation from apprentice boy Tommy Cheevers, who invited the LOCC to direct talks yesterday after the first major parade of the marching season passed off peacefully in Belfast, although the Ballinafire apprentice boys were prevented from marching down the Lower Ormo Road. Last night, Gerard Rice from the LOCC said that disagreement between the two organisations would not prevent talks, hoping to resolve the situation taking place.
The offer of the apprentice boys talks is a welcome decision. It's one in which we totally and absolutely welcome. We've been pushing for 7 years now for talks. I don't believe that LOCC is going to allow yesterday's revelations to destroy the opportunity of hopefully moving the situation forward through dialogue. And hopefully reaching a positive conclusion in the weeks, months ahead.
The Orange Order remained silent last night, but according to sources, the Order are expected to respond to the situation later today in what could be seen as a significant move.
Police at New Barnsley are appealing for information after 2 men were badly beaten in West Belfast. One 20-year-old man suffered injuries to his head and arm at Beachview Park on Sunday night. The other victim, who was 22, needed 27 stitches to his face after being assaulted by 3 men in a laneway beside Beachmount Leisure Centre off the Falls Road yesterday at 1 a.m. Doctors at the Mater Hospital in Belfast, with support from the Chest, Heart and Stroke Association, have embarked on innovative research into the effect of extending the rehabilitation period after a heart attack. Louise Cullen reports.
It's well known that Northern Ireland has a poor track record for cardiac health. The Northern Ireland Chest, Heart and Stroke Association is funding research in Belfast into the value of a longer community-based programme of cardiac rehabilitation.
We have asked the Department of Health and we've asked the 4 health boards to ensure that every heart attack sufferer of right is offered cardiac rehabilitation. And we believe if they do that, It is a small investment now, and it will greatly reduce the huge drug bills and huge health costs that will occur 10 and 15 years down the line.
The research will have a long-term impact on the health of heart attack sufferers, as rehabilitation reduces the risk of further attacks.
Cardiac rehabilitation has already been shown to be beneficial, probably in terms of mortality. Patients who receive cardiac rehabilitation have a reduced mortality. Patients also benefit because they report feeling better when on standard question assessment. They can exercise better after the exercise element of a cardiac rehabilitation program, and they tend to adjust their lifestyles in a more positive direction.
It's hoped the results of the study here will be applied in hospitals across the country and around the world where such programs aren't already in use.
And finally, the weather prospects.
Get up to speed on today's weather with GMTV in association with P&O European Ferries.
Sunny intervals followed by showers again today, with some heavy and possibly thundery rain likely. The maximum temperature 14 degrees Celsius. That's it for now. I'll be back at 7:30. Good morning.
Welcome back to the News Hour. This morning's top story. NATO warplanes have attacked an oil refinery and a number of other targets in another night of bombing on Serbia.
It's now 9 minutes to 7. Pop superstar Sir Elton John is launching a new career, but this time he'll be behind the cameras. Sir Elton is executive producer on a major new British film starring Helena Bonham Carter. The movie's set in Edinburgh, where Stephen Jardine caught up with Sir Elton.
Cameras, action, and Britain's newest film company goes into production, calling the shots a familiar face. 30 years after he first hit the top of the charts, Sir Elton John is launching a new career as a film producer, aiming to make Britain's best new movies.
I'm 52 now, I want to do other things. I don't want to just sit there and make records and just play the piano and stuff like that and become Winifred Atwell.
Sir Elton's first film, Women Talking Dirty, has just started shooting. The £3 million production stars Helena Bonham Carter and requires a Scottish accent from the classic English actress.
Well, she's meant to be Scottish. Unfortunately, today I don't think she was very Scottish, but she came from London, I think.
Of course, Sir Elton is no stranger to the big screen. He starred in Tommy and Spice World and won an Oscar for The Lion King. So would he like a small part himself?
I've got a small part, but not in the film.
This may be the first, but Sir Elton John has another 4 films ready for production. Cinema audiences will decide if he can make films as well as music.
Well, indeed, talented chap, isn't he?
Yeah, I think we must be too early. I completely missed what Helena Bonham Carter's... Oh, did you?
I think it was funny. But anyway, I'm sure it was funny. If you're just joining us, you may think the surroundings are slightly unfamiliar. That's because, you're right, we have a new set.
We do.
Tell us what you think about it. We think it's rather nice, don't we?
We do, although we have had a few people saying, could Anne Davis sit down?
Yes.
It'll be me sitting down or standing up in a minute.
Anne Davis read the news standing up, as Penny will do in just a tick. But so yeah, we like the colours. We're not quite sure where we are, but it's a big city. Yes, that'll do. Yeah. Give us a call. Tell us what you think.
Now window boxes. Look at them. They're lovely.
Yes, they are. Very sweet. Very nice. Smell nice too. OK, that's just about it from the News Hour for this morning. Simon will be here with the weather right after the break.
But before we go, today's Millennium Moments recall the birth of the modern Olympics and a master stuntman.